Hello, everybody. This is the REI Club, and we are meeting here on December 13th, 2019. And today, our special guest speaker is David Llant from propertyradar.com. And he's going to talk to us about how you can do hyperlocal market analysis using propertyradar.com. So, David, it's all up to you.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. So for everyone listening out there, I'm sitting in our office up here in Lake Tahoe, Truckee, California. If you're ever up here skiing or mountain biking, be sure to stop by and say hi. We got lots of co-working spaces here, and we're always a good excuse for people to come up and visit. So to get this presentation kicked off, I thought I'd first just start, usually do quite a bit longer of a presentation for REI clubs, but we're short on time today, so I'm just going to kind of cover a few things first. A little bit just how we got started. Story you guys can kind of empathize with. Sean O'Toole here. He was a data engineer, data nerd down in Silicon Valley in the late 90s, hit the dot-com bomb. He was working on the original Real Networks video players and all that. And did okay with the Real Networks IPO, but the dot-com bomb kind of left him in a tailspin, didn't know what he's going to do. So he crossed paths with a friend. He's like, hey, I'm doing these foreclosure investing. You should do that. So between 2001 and 2005, he did about 200 flips and foreclosure investments, and discovered that the real estate industry was really backwards and upside down when it came to working with data and accessing public records and making that useful for investors. He had a bunch of investments in the Stockton area, which was kind of ground zero for the foreclosure crisis. And so in late 2005, early 2006, he sold everything and cashed out, hunkered down in 2006, and wrote what became the first version of what he launched in early 2007. Back then, we were known as Foreclosure Radar. And even early 2007, Ben Bernanke was still out there saying everything's okay. But a lot of folks were like, hey, something's wrong. Of course, by early 2008, Sean went immediately to 60 Minutes, being labeled the foreclosure data guy, which is a great label, and rode the foreclosure crisis, being the core service to identify, track, and pursue foreclosures. Foreclosure crisis obviously came to an end, and we had to pivot. So we changed the name to Property Radar, really diversify the data, the services, the breadth of who we service. And today it's quite a bit different in that over time, our customers have evolved. We had a lot of customers start as investors, and they've started other businesses. They've been real estate professionals. They've owned other home and property focused businesses. And the common denominator for driving a lot of that business growth has been data. And so today, like one of our more recent things we're excited about is with all the home equity growth in particularly the West, a lot of people are doing cash out refis. And where Home Depot knows that, Home Depot's got an unfair advantage to market to homeowners who just recently cashed out or took out a HELOC. Today, we're able to help Ken, the kitchen contractor, who lives in the same market, compete with the big businesses who have access to that data. So while our core customer is still a real estate investor, we've got real estate investors who also have other businesses or are involved in other businesses that are still dependent on data. So that's a little background about who we are. So I mention that because there's ebbs and flows in all business, and over time, over the, 13 years we've been in business, a lot of our best customers have changed their tone to say, I used to be a really good foreclosure investor, but over time I got really good at some skill sets that have applied across several property and home-focused businesses, and that's now my strength. Even to the extent where some of our customers have drive leads by volunteering for nonprofits and using property and homeowner-centric data to drive donations to the nonprofit, but that helps them get connected with people in their local community and leads to future deals. So this guy's a top-level thing. I'm going to just hit a section out of this presentation that is really the observational thing. We've had tens of thousands of investors that we've worked with over the years, and so we've been able to look and see what is it about their behaviors, who's winning, who's losing, and why is that. So it's just as good to understand why people are not succeeding as an investor in their marketplace as it is to understand the folks that are. That contrast there kind of is some useful insights. And for this little section, the biggest insight is most investors want to be an investor, which is, they want to crunch numbers, they want to buy that property, they want to look at that cap rate. They're good at the investing side, but when it comes to generating leads, generating prospects, more often than not, they're having to exercise a skill or capacity that they've never really had either in their career or it's just never been something that's really been exciting to them. So the first observation, and really what I'm going to cover about here is if you're going to be a real estate investor and you need a persistent source of leads, that means you're going to have to get good. So I see this expressed in how customers may review me, our platform, but I see behavior. So here's an investor who's really unhappy, too much information, too much to learn. Well, sorry. On the flip side of that is everything I need in one place. 3 years later, and I'm still finding new ways to find new deals, right? It has nothing to do with data, product, anything out there. It's mindset. How are you going to approach this? You got a growth mindset, or are you expecting everything handed to us? Or my worst customers are my best customers because they don't want anyone to know about us, so they won't even give me a testimonial. But it's behavior related. Most of what we see in this industry at the end of the day comes down to self-defeating behavior, because it's in the many things you have to get good at to be a holistic investor, all the skills and capacities. There's many opportunities for self-defeating behavior. Biggest one is just, the biggest enemy out there is ignorance. And, despite today, with everything at our fingertips with Google, there are no secrets out there. So there's no shortage of gurus selling secrets, but the reality is there are no secrets. They all exist out there online, and it really comes down to, are you going to put the time in to understand it? And that's really where the real opportunity in this, and congratulations for being here, right? You've got the right behavior. You're taking a few minutes out of your Friday to come in and get a different perspective, pick up a couple ideas, maybe get a little motivated. And that over time is what leads to success, is a reinforcement of what's your mindset, what's your behavior that you're going to approach at this. And one of my more favorite quotes is the only way to get a thing done is to start to do it and keep on doing it until you finally finish it. And we see a lot of people start and they hit something that's tough, something that's rough, a little bit out of their wheelhouse, and they quit, and they don't get through the tough spots. And I'm assuming, is everyone here done at least one deal?
Yes.
Is it easy?
No.
Not really.
Yeah. So it's good to have, the other thing we see with successful is being involved with real estate clubs, having a network of people, the connection to other people to share your problems, share your success, but really bounce ideas off of and get that human to human interaction. That's what gets us through the rough spots and gets us down the road when we have to do those things that we don't want to do. And the bottom line is that marketing, which is probably, if you didn't have to go to jail because you don't do your taxes, I'd say taxes and accounting would be the least favorite thing of any investor. But since you can't go to jail for not marketing, I'd say marketing is probably the least favorite activity across the board for investors. But that's where the opportunity is. And the reality is it's just a process. It really does. It's not about how smart you are, your creativity. Everyone that's succeeding in marketing just lays out simple processes, does tiny habits, builds upon those, and you get good over time by getting data back on what's working and what's not working. So what is not working out there? And this is what we collectively see from folks who are not getting the job done. Narcissistic behavior. They're out in their marketing and all they want to do is communicate about themselves. Hi, I'm an investor and this is what I want to do and this is what I'm after. And all they do is talk about themselves. And I always use the analogy of you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them proportionally, especially in your marketing. If you're trying to connect with a prospective deal owner, you've got to form a human connection. A lot of investors, unless you're chasing foreclosures at the auction step alone, you are going to have to interact with another human being in the deal process. And that's going to involve some of that social and emotional intelligence. And you ask any long-term investor where their best deals have come from, there'll always be a little bit of a head scratcher, and because the expected rational behavior of that person that you purchased that home from was not what you expected, and that translated into a much higher cap rate for you. And that's, you're getting that deal that they want to buy, that they're going to let that property go for cash fast because they've got something going on in their life and they're looking for an ear that can help them get through their situation. So what happens is too often is too much spam going out there, messaging to prospective customers that do not resonate, and therefore it's spam, and we all know what we like about spam, which is nothing. And then just showing up and doing the very minimum, right? I was told to send out yellow letters, and so that's what I'm going to do. I establish a lot of honeypots. I go out and hire homeowners out there that have certain characteristics, and I say, hey, I'd like to do some market research. Would you please save for me all of your direct mail and your outreach by investors so that I can study it? And here's an example of what I see way too much of. Just participation. Some guru, or they download it off some website, and literally I've had folks who fit a very specific target demographic that are ripe for investors get 20 or 30 of these, literally the same template. The only differentiation is the name and phone number on the car. And that's not smart. That's not good marketing. Imagine you're the homeowner and you got 30 yellow letters, but are you the one that stands out? Can you do something just a little bit differently to stick? Because that's what's the goal of marketing, is you've got to get connected with that prospective owner. And if you're competing against others and you're doing everything else that everyone else is doing, that's not good marketing. Next one, not being curious. I'm going to guess this probably wouldn't be a problem for you guys, being a little bit more on the engineering mindset and being familiar with data and all that, but this one drives me nuts. The number of investors who just don't take the time to sit down and just be curious about what is going on in their market. Talking to people, knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, talking to real estate agents, networking out there, but trying to understand what is working, what's not working, doing the same thing I'm doing here for you, which is I want to understand what is working. Why did that deal? How did that deal happen? How did they get that return on that flip? This one's probably really important for you all because you've got day jobs. So you've got to really value your time. And the number of folks I see who, their time's probably worth several $100s an hour, but they're quite willing to treat their time as if it's only worth $5 an hour, and spend a lot of time and effort doing things that they could just spend a couple $100s for, and but they'd rather throw several $1,000s of their own time at it, and then they wonder why they're not seeing results. And then, not for everyone, but this is, at the end of this day, real estate investing's got a lot of ditch digging. You got a couple options when it comes to digging a ditch. You can hire someone to do it for you, which is obviously going to be the most expensive. Or you can do it yourself. You can do it by hand, but digging a ditch by hand is no fun. So you're looking for tools. What's the tool that's going to let me get this ditch dug a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, because I value my time? And then probably the one we see the most of is just that hope that there's this almighty do-it-for-me button, that there's some secret or there's some software like a property radar that just, I sign up and I just press a button all day and deals just magically fly out of it. And it doesn't exist. I mean, honestly, if we could develop this button, we would, and then we would turn our service off and we'd kick back and press the button ourselves all day. So I can say with all honesty, this button does not exist. And you got to kind of realize that it never will. And your advantages are being, valuing your time, being able to do a little bit of hard work, and then getting down to the nitty gritty. You got to know your market. You got to know how to target your best prospects within your market, and you got to be able to connect with those prospects. And today, as much as Facebook would want you to believe that everyone's on Facebook, reality is not everyone's on Facebook. And you may be able to identify your best potential prospective deals out there, but how you connect with them is going to mean you're going to have to work across channels, from email to phone to in-person, direct mail, social media, smoke signal, whatever it takes. You got to get in contact with that owner to get that deal done. So what is working? I've got this actually pasted on my wall. It's my daily reminder. Who? A smart investor doesn't start with what. A smart investor doesn't start with how. And a smart investor doesn't start with where. Smart investor starts with who. Again, as much as we want to think that we're real estate investors and our business is about working with properties, these real tangible things, the transaction, and again, unless you're doing just foreclosure auctions, you're going to interact with a who. And you got to think about who you're going to interact with to make that transaction happen. That gives you an opportunity to get a cap rate that's going to make you happy. So just simply asking yourself always, and this is where the segmenting and the slicing and dicing, but persistently, who is my customer? And that leads me to my deal. And often the easiest way to think about that is really, who is not my customer, right? There's many characteristics and attributes of owners and properties out there that makes them not a viable potential deal for you. And that's good. And that helps you narrow down into who is my best future customers. So only when you know your who, then does the what, where, when, how, why all matter. So as a visualization, the not a side of it is pretty easy, in that the preponderance of property owners out there are not your potential deal. There's really a very small subset. And that's good for another reason, because that means the spend you have to make to get at those folks is much less. But too many people make the mistake of trying to reach too many people, not qualifying, and they end up wasting a lot of money reaching people that are never going to be their customer or their next deal. And then they dribble the ball or fumble the ball at they do find them, they do figure out how to connect with them, and they haven't put any thought into and really strategy into how are they actually truly going to connect with that homeowner and get an actual deal into the funnel. I just saw this the other day online, so I clipped it because I thought it was a good example of an investor not thinking right. So this guy's talking about kind of a competitor to us, PropStream, but kind of similar. At the end of the day, a lot of the real estate investing software lets you identify home and property owners. But let me just kind of read this. I've used PropStream on and off over the past year. They provide you with a ton of information. That's awesome. I used it to send direct mail postcards. That's awesome. You do have to pay for each lead. Obviously, you got to invest a little money. Value, you get access to a ton of information without doing a bunch of work yourself. Good. So he values his time a little bit. That's where the value is. It puts a large majority of the information you want to know about a property in one clean space. That's awesome. That's valuing your time. The information isn't always up to date, but I found it's accurate the majority of the time. That's that can be a problem with the vendor, but generally, if you guys probably are aware of this, that public records are just messy by nature. They're never going to be perfect, between the fact that half our county assessors are still working on Windows 7 machines, and we never give them enough bond money to improve their networks. Tell your Intel sales folks, please go save the county assessors and make our data cleaner. It would make all of our life much better. The data out there at the very root is dirty. We do a lot to try to clean that up, but it's never going to be clean. But there's opportunity in dirty data. If you know that a property's got a pool, but the public record says it doesn't, you know something the market doesn't, and that's something good to track, because that could give you an opportunity down the road, and those opportunities are everywhere. A common one with folks chasing multifamily opportunities is a lot of the multifamily opportunities started as motels, and they never got their public record updated. So as people are looking for multifamily opportunities, they're not looking at things coded as motels. And today they may be condos or apartments, but they're still listed in the public record as a multifamily. But here's the thing I want to focus in on, what I'll jump off to the rest of the presentation, is as much as he values his time up here, he's not at the point where he's spending tens of thousands on marketing. That's good. You don't really need to. But he's just coming in shortly, identifying one list, and then jumping out and just working that one list. And here's the problem that really leads into where folks like you have a real advantage, which is so much of this can be automated. So much of this can be persistent. You don't have to be working it all day, every day. You can set it and forget it. And if you just come in and get one list and start working that list, you miss every opportunity, every transaction that presents itself as an opportunity in between the time that you then jump in and decide you run yourself another list. So this is the problem we see with too many folks. They just focus on one small segment, one small slice, and they miss the whole opportunity. The real opportunity out there is to always be aware, always be alert, always be actionable, and wherever possible, especially for folks like you that got day jobs, always be automating, because that's the best use of your time. Yeah, it may take a little bit of effort up front, but when you've got much of your business, particularly your marketing and sales, working in the background, that produces returns in the long run, because you're never missing a deal out there. So flow, we kind of just always say, look, you've got to go through a discovery process. The understand process is really missed by a lot of folks, because they just say, oh, I discovered that person, but I'm never really going to understand the attributes or characteristics about that so that I can write a good connection or connect with them in a meaningful way and stand out. And so understand gets missed a lot. And then connecting with them, and then wherever you can, this process gets automated. So come out of here, just as a flow, you know, there's kind of three areas. There's research, there's marketing, and sales. You kind of start off on market research, and then you move yourself into lead generation, and then you get some leads in the funnel, and that's going to put you into sales, and then you're going to be doing due diligence about closing a particular property, and it's just this cycle of moving of where the concentration is. Ideally, and where automation brings the promise, is that you can kind of keep all these covered at once, and you're not having to shift attention. You're always, get a deal on the table, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time on diligence and process and escrow and all of that. But where we see a lot of folks, they spend way too much time over here, never get good at this, or they try to just spend all their time here and they never really get good. They waste a lot of their time because they haven't really understood their market and where the opportunities are. So that's the end of that little short section. You guys still with me?
Yep, we're still here.
So what does that look like? Can I answer any questions on that?
Oh, I was just going to say, if you're actively looking for like a rental home or some sort of investment property, how does this process relate to, finding a single family rental?
Yeah, so we start in the kind of that research phase, discovery, right? We're in the market research. So I just pulled up Portland here. My mouse on my laptop and the screen is going to be touchy, so apologize for that. So, I don't know much about Portland, but, right away I can start to, you've probably got a hyper-local market that you care about, right? There's a very specific section that matters. And, let's find out where, red is my non-owner occupied. So probably with Portland, this area you've got much more density of rental properties, as opposed to some of these neighborhoods like in here where the ownership is really tight, and then start checking things out, like where's the turnover and the action in particular markets. And at this density, it's going to be a little bit different to understand. But you know, you can start zooming in, and if I want to understand a very specific part of my market, you know, if this is the area I really want to focus on, I've done some research, looked at some recent deals in a particular area. I think I sent you the Finding Flippers video.
I sent that out in an email to everyone if people want to look at it. There was an email that had 2 YouTube videos in embedded, or the links to them embedded, and it was the first of the 2.
Yeah, so that one's super powerful. Think about it. What he's saying is, why would I not want to know what my competitors and friends are doing in the marketplace, and who's actually making money? Right? Your best market intelligence is going to be the most recently completed deal in the market that I want to operate in. And what can I glean from that? And call them up. I mean, I do it all the time. I call up investors out of the blue. Hey, I saw you just flip that deal for, it made $80,000 in profit. Awesome. Tell me about it. Investors love to share. I mean, it's still, at the end of the day, a community of like-minded folks, and we like to tell our war stories, and we like to feel appreciated for the effort that we've done. So never hesitate to reach out to fellow investors that you've identified and learn from them. It seems insane that people miss that opportunity, but it is one of the most common mistakes we see, is people just do not take time to understand where's the action in my marketplace, and of the action in my marketplace, which ones are getting good returns. And that should inform a lot of my strategy, particularly if you're trying to understand a strategy, like what should I do? Identifying what's going on in the marketplace is hugely valuable. And then that leads in, so I'll come into here. So this is just heat maps. We got like 30 heat maps to really, visualize data, things you can't do in Excel really easy. And this all works on mobile too, which is super fun when you're driving. So I'm driving down a street at street level, and I'm visually observing things, and I can be driving and hang a left here and go, oh, this property's underwater. I wonder what the story is behind there. So there are 127 underwater. Maybe come in, get some information, take some pictures about it, look at my recent transactions, understand a little bit about what went on with this property, look at, get all the details I need, and then add that to a list, or put that into a, hey, that's a prospect. Like, this property's underwater, it's got some opportunities, I may want to end up contacting that. So add that person to a status of prospecting. So the driving for dollars is amazing when you've got data in your hand to work with to augment your reality, basically.
David, is it possible to filter results by the zoning, for instance, if we were interested, in commercial office space or retail or vacant land or other types of zoned areas?
Absolutely. So this is the other, I don't want to call it a mistake or lost opportunity, but you guys are engineers, so you work with libraries, right? You're good at you end up being good at your job because you know what you've got to work with. So the same thing applies with looking for properties and looking for opportunities out there. Over here, tucked in all these menus, and we've made some into quick lists, but I've got approaching 300 criteria of how you can describe properties, their characteristics, their owners, and their characteristics, that lets you drill down with criteria. So I'll just, we'll just do kind of a quick little example. So let's just say I really care about, I'm just going to draw one. I really think like this little neighborhood here, right? I've already got a property in it, so it's convenient for me to manage. I just want to focus on the 5,856 properties in that area. And I'll just go to a quick list. So I'll go to investor and say, who's my absentee owners in that area who don't actually live in the same county or the same state or same county, sorry. So there's 500 now, right? So just in that little polygon, I've now narrowed this down to these criteria. And, you know, I use analogies like cooking. I don't want to brag, but I'm a really good cook, and I'm a really good cook because I like cooking, I like eating. And I've been doing it for a long time, which means I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've also got a giant cabinet of spices and seasonings. And I cook across like Asian food, Indian food. Like my wife hates it. She drives her nuts that I occupy half the kitchen with all these spices, but she never complains about the meals I make because over time, I've learned all the possibilities of how I can season things, and I can just make things stand out like no one else. And it's the same thought process over here is if you're going to cook up some good lists to market to, you got to know your ingredients that you're working with. And when you know the 300 potential criteria that you can use to describe at and get at the very particular things you're looking for in your marketplace, that gives you a huge advantage because, one, you don't waste money and time and energy marketing to the folks that don't fit those criteria. And then two, you can write much more specific messaging or have much more specific strategy in approaching those folks. Because how you approach someone who's over the age of 85 and free and clear and living in a 2-story home may be different than someone and has been there for 30 years and has experienced a life event like a joy and death tenant is going to be entirely different than how you speak to someone who may be 35, got a new kid on the way, and has been in that home for 2 years. Different messages are going to resonate with those folks. So, so here we honed in on single family condo. We've got tons of different types. You can really drill into, if you're looking at MFRs or other different types of residences, all the various ways of doing commercial, industrial, agricultural, land, there's just the property type in itself is massive amount of nuance to that. Often it's just you kind of chasing basic types. So if I don't even want condos, I want SFRs, get rid of that, and that dropped it down to 480. And then I really want to talk to the folks that value and equity, current equity is free and clear, right? So I want to go to 100% and add that criteria in, and that just dropped it to 130 folks in that area. And I could look and say, I only want to talk to folks that the purchase date was before, wrong way, go back into, I'll go to my year, prior to 2015, and add that criteria in there. And I just missed that. Sorry. Anyways, you get the idea. And then ownership characteristics. And I end up saving this into a list, right? And I'll just call this. What's the area I'm in here? I'm sure you guys recognize it. I'll just call it Portland owner occupied. Save that, and save that as a list. Now I can view all those folks, go through each one individually, make notes, segment it further into other lists. And at the end of the day, what you end up is you kind of build this dashboard of how many ways can I slice and dice my market into very specific segments. And when I do that by criteria, you let us do a lot of hard work for you, and that these are always kept up to date. What do I call that one? That was Portland non-owner occupied. So I get some insights right away off of those folks that can help inform my messaging, or maybe a further segment to slice that list, or something about the properties in of themselves. A lot of folks actually use these in their marketing because we generate so much cool information about them right there. But you end up with this, like, now I slice and dice my market, and these lists are always listening. Because this is dynamic criteria, anytime there's a new match to it, it gets added to the list. And anytime there's not a new match to it, they get subtracted. So you're never dealing with bad data. So tomorrow I could, as soon as there's a new match to this, boom, this ticks up to 131. And obviously there's lots of ways to connect with those folks right there. But then I can automate and be on top of it and listen to my market. Going back to the real advantage out here, right? Always aware, always alert, always actionable, and always automating. Best use of your time, best use of your money, and no deal gets missed. So, right, I turn on an alert. I want to look for new matches, or if there's a particular status change, and I want an immediate email, and then I connect it to Zapier, and that Zap goes out to Lob, which is a one-off automated direct printing, which is awesome, or any others. And I'll just set it and forget it. And I never have to worry that anytime there's a new match to a very particular set of conditions with property owners in my market, I don't have to worry. I don't have to think about it. I just know that a piece of direct mail just went out, or if there's a phone number or an email available with that owner, that a text message has gone out or a voicemail drop has gone out. But I'm not missing any aspect of my marketplace. And as these ebb and flow up and down, every opportunity for that particular segment has been captured and has been acted upon. Does that make
David,
sense?
could you tell us a little bit about the sources of the data? How up to date are they? What coverage do they have? What locales can we look at?
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, today we're still in California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, launching national in, my engineers tell me probably middle of Q1, so that probably means end of Q1. No offense.
That's true.
I'm in marketing, right? I was put on this earth to make engineers' life hard, and vice versa. That's the Dilbert generation. The data is largely public records. I mean, that's the core, right? And the data most of the data that we provide you is actually free. You can go get it in other sources on your own. But what we really do is we just make public records usable, for one. Like I said, they'll never be perfect, but there's enough error correction. One of the things that's delaying us going national has been, as we've moved east, the degree to which the data is just horrible. Think we're catching errors that it just stuns me. Like, there's one county that's been pushing out dropped, we call drop zero zips, where at some point they slurped up the data into Excel or something, and the leading zero on the zip as an integer got dropped, and then it got put back in the system as a 4-digit zip code when there should be a leading zero. And so the public records are all incorrect, and they've been doing it for years. And it took someone like us that's got, we've been writing algorithms since 2007 to catch all the bazillion different permutations of how people can fat finger and screw up public record data entry. We can catch some, not all. We catch a lot, but it's dirty out there. Again, it's an opportunity, when you do find errors. But yes, the large part is public record base. And if you want to really, you guys are probably my only audience that would really appreciate, go to my website.
So are your engineers going out there and connecting to services like EagleWeb that are often used with county assessors in order to store their data? Are you pulling it that way through the assessor and the treasurers and the county recorders web pages, or is there another way you're doing that?
There's many ways we're doing it. This covers kind of all of it. I don't speak about our actual vendors because we consider that to be competitive intelligence, and since we were one of the earliest entrants into the marketplace, Sean's considered one of the top guys in that. He sits on the board of like CoreLogic's data team and a bunch of he gets calls from his buddies at Zillow all the time. Like he is the data guy. So that's what he prides himself on, and So we multi-source, we bake off. We are lopsided on data.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned CoreLogic. I'm a CoreLogic subscriber. So it's interesting to hear that your data is probably somewhat similar, I guess, or at least the people that are operating on it have a like mindset.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes from the same place, which is the government records, the recording office, which is the assessor or the county or the court or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a root for all this data, and then how that data is processed, and then how it ultimately ends up in the various nooks and crannies of everyone out there has different processes. And so that's what we really say we focus on is like we've got a team for acquisition, we've got a team for cleaning and enhancement, we've got a whole entity resolution team, and my algorithms doing Levenshtein distance equations and all that good stuff all day, trying to find give you an example of that. So go in the lookup here. I'll just look up someone that's got a couple properties. So here's the answer. So connecting the fact that he owns another property. So you can find in like using that finding flippers things, you can find folks that own dozens of properties, hundreds of properties. There's some profiles out there that this list of other properties owned is like scroll and scroll and scroll. And they're good sources because investors who own hundreds of properties are always willing to maybe let one go because they, what may be an underperforming cap rate for them is a good cap rate for you. They're great people to talk to. But just, entity resolution around busting through trusts, busting through LLCs to really form we call this the owner graph. And we got a product we're working on here for next year that's going to be a little more exciting around that because it gives some insights into total valuation of people that aren't really considered through most ways because no one's writing algorithms to connect up all the properties that people own, multi-property ownership. So anyways, yeah.
Hello, David. Did we lose you? Did we lose me?
No, I think we lost David.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he'll probably be back in just a moment. I wanted to apologize for any confusion there was in the invite email. Did anybody see or have questions about that? I guess there was a cancellation notice that went out that was for one meeting, but then I followed up with an email that had the instructions in another. So maybe right now we could actually take a few moments and say, what's the best way to be in contact with you guys? I just got approval to put up a channel in meetup.intel.com, and I'm hoping that doing that will allow us to reach a broader audience and to bring more people into the group. But is there a best way that I can get in touch with you guys to schedule the meetings? And just know they're always Friday at noon.
The Outlook invite that you sent out is the best. I mean,
Nope.
Once we get it on my calendar, I know it's there, and there is a Skype link I can connect, and that's the best thing to do, anyways.
Yep, I'll just keep doing that.
Yep.
And I'll keep Inside Blue up to date as well.
Yeah, if it's on my calendar, I'll go to it. If it's not on my calendar, I thought it was cancelled.
Okay, so it did drop off your calendar then.
It did, yeah. It wasn't until you sent out the, hey, we're actually meeting. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's strange. Yeah, a lot of people have said that, and it's still on my calendar, which I don't understand how that happens.
So Daniel, your email came first with the instructions about the meeting and all that, and then the cancellation came. So that's why it got confusing for some folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Well, what other topics would you guys like to hear about in the new year? I'm about to go out and try and make contact with a new set of people. And one of the big requests that we've had is for Airbnb people that work in that market and that can talk about it, and also hotel management. Are there any other topics you'd like me to go out and find people to come in and speak to us about? Do you guys like continued topics in 401ks and single-family rentals?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
Single-family rentals, or I think our speaker's back. Single-family rentals or 401ks?
Single-family rental.
Yeah, same here.
All right. We can go out and find some more people that talk about that. Are you looking to do like a market analysis where you're talking about it in a particular area? Or would you like a nationwide or a statewide overview?
Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Oh, no problem. We just we went on to discussing what topics we want to talk about in the upcoming meetings.
Sure.
So, well, David, let me give you the opportunity to put your contact information up so that everybody has it. I'm particularly interested in seeing if Property Radar can be used to find the owners of vacant land.
Oh yeah, that's easy. I got 100 architects doing that probably right now.
Okay.
Yeah, again, it's that cooking with criteria, right? You got like 300 criteria to work with. You can get at for every single slice and dice.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there. It just comes down to learning what criteria is available, and then going after it, and then you end up with, you can end up describing your market in all these ways. So instead of going and buying a list that goes out of date by 20% every year, now you've got access to everything in your marketplace. You can slice and dice it in as many ways as you want to. I've got, like in my personal one, like I've got properties that don't have really anything in it, but I'm always listening, because when there's a new match, that's like, okay, fish on hook, it's time to go. Drop everything.
Do you have your contact information you can put up on the screen?
Yeah, do you see that?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, I guess I lost my screen share. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, your goal, slice and dice your marketplace, all your opportunities as many ways as you can, and then have particular strategies for each one. And then my contact info, it's right there.
Excellent.
Please send me an email. If I don't respond, shoot me a text. I get too much email. I'm really good with text messages.
All right. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming in here and sharing with us. And like we said earlier at the beginning of this meeting, it looks like there was a communication problem with the invites. And so if you'd like to come back and present again and run us through a few scenarios near the beginning of the year, I'd like to invite you back in the January timeframe.
Yeah, I've got, we just went through one section of probably a 5-section deck on all the strategies and tactics for being good at marketing. So I'm happy to take on another aspect of it.
Or, the other possibility is if you want to wait till your engineering team puts out their nationwide data release, you could probably come back and talk at that point too.
Sure. That sounds awesome, guys. Hey, thanks for spending your lunch with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have good holidays.
You too. Thanks.
And for everybody that is on the line, normally we're going to meet each week. However, since it's the holiday season, our next meeting is going to be on January 3rd. So Friday, January 3rd.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. And I will try to make a non-confusing announcement about that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.